Hello everybody, Nine here with a new patch notes analysis. Valve hit us with another patch yesterday, the 1st of October. They have been releasing patches basically weekly, non-stop. Most of them just tweaking cards, changing some stuff. Nothing big has happened, I feel, in the last few weeks. But this week there's something new that I felt like was worth discussing and analyzing a little bit, because I feel like this is going to impact the way the game plays a lot from here on out. So basically, very shortly, we're just going to go here into the patch notes, look at the patch. You guys probably have seen this by now. There's some tiny typos, corrections, some small text cleanup and stuff. Team fight works now. Yeah, whatever. I didn't even know that was bugged. Some gameplay changes. Probably worth talking about some of these points, because might as well, since we're talking about this patch in specific. Something that I feel is interesting now is that they're noticing probably that people aren't playing too much with a lot of these big creeps. For the most part, people are either playing really cheap creeps like Greivels in blue or black to accomplish specific things like jump blocking with a slight advantage, or they're just trying to abuse creeps like Green does with a Musk Choir. So I feel like there's not a lot of place, at least in Constructed, for these for a lot of these creeps, where obviously they have a place in Draft, but in Constructed a lot of these things are just clearly not good enough. So I like to see that they're adjusting some of these things. Stonehall Elite, Red Mist Pillager, the cost just felt prohibitive. And I would know, because I've done a lot of Pillager decks, and Red Mist Pillager, you just don't want to take your third turn to just drop a Pillager and do nothing else. So, interestingly, they had buffed Infernal Ally before. Now he triggers on play and on death. And he had, I think his cost also got reduced. No, his cost was the same, but he just started triggering on play as well as on death, I think. So you could just get the bonus twice, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, now they chose to increase that, which in a way is kind of going against what they are introducing later on. But interesting to see. Maybe the data showed that it was too strong or too annoying. I mean, there's other reasons to also nerf stuff besides just power level. Phantom Lancer getting some love. Health increased to 4. That's going to make him just a little bit much harder to kill, especially if he's blocked, because now with the additional armor that's going up to 5, so he's not dying to a lot of black heroes, he's not dying to a lot of blue heroes anymore. So that's interesting to me. And I think here, quite interestingly, Astral Imprisonment cost reduced to 2. Like, it's not even 4 to 3, it's 4 to 2. I felt since the beginning of the beta that OD was a hero that is intrinsically very strong. But I've always felt like his card was on the overpriced end of things. On the other hand, I guess you can say that his card is quite good in the late game. So when you get to those really late game scenarios, Astral Imprisonment could actually be like game changing. So seeing it reduced to 2 mana, I like to see it. I'm gonna be wondering if it's not gonna be like just a bit too good. Time will tell. But yeah, I think people should keep an eye on OD, because I think he's an underutilized hero right now. No Hesitation getting the nerf. People were abusing No Hesitation a lot. This was like by far one of the best cards in the game, and I think easily the best card in red. Specifically because they were allowing, or they are still allowing, people to play like double No Hesitation. Excuse me. I really needed to sneeze. So, No Hesitation cost increased to 3. This is gonna make it just a little bit more harder for people to double No Hesitation in one round. And overall, yeah, like I said, this is just a very powerful card to have at 2 mana. So I'm 100% sure it's still gonna be played a lot. It's just gonna be harder to sequence stuff into it, you're gonna have to plan your mana a little bit better. And if you want to double no hesitation, you're gonna have to wait a couple more rounds. So that makes it quite less powerful. And I think, as we've discussed, like these changes to mana cost as well, it's something that I've like talked about a lot before, is like the change of going from 3 mana pools to 1 mana pool really makes you notice when they nerf these mana costs, because the difference is so huge when you're just reduced to 1 mana pool, having to tweak these mana costs. Just in terms of percentage of the whole mana that you're going to be spending that round, the impact is just much bigger. So every time you're going to see a card change in mana, changing in 1 mana from 3 to 2 or 2 to 1, it's actually a huge difference. And yeah, basically it just makes it harder to balance. But we will see. It's going to be interesting to see how this turns out. But now we get to the cream of the gameplay changes. Alright, so since they reworked Golden Ticket, this card's been like a bit of a nightmare, where it's fun in a way because there's RNG, but it's really easy to manipulate the RNG, and it's been in a really weird place. For those of you who don't know, right now before this patch, Golden Ticket cost 15 gold, so it was a tier 2 item, and then you could wait to use it in later turns, and you would get a random item equal from the tier where your shop's at. So you buy Golden Ticket at tier 2, you hold it for like 3-4 rounds, and then when you hit tier 5, you're gonna pop that Golden Ticket and get a random, not from your item deck, you're gonna get a completely random tier 5 item. Problem being that tier 5 items are quite strong, and because of that, people have kind of been abusing Golden Ticket, and the fact of the matter is it gives you a 15 gold bonus, and it's kind of like, I mean, it's not completely irrelevant what item you get, it's much harder to plan for it or so, but the tier 5 items are just so strong that the game impact is generally quite big. And it feels kind of bad to lose the Golden Ticket, which is like the complaint that people always had from 1.0, where, oh, it feels bad losing to RNG. So, well, there you go. Golden Ticket gets deleted, so that's not going to be a strategy anymore. If you want to do your econ decks, you're going to have to do it like the traditional way. Something else that's like really sneaky here, Greil Egg has returned. Greil Egg is a card that has been like kind of controversial from the beginning. Greil Egg. On one side, like, this is really nice Timmy card, which allows people to play their Greil decks, and it makes the Greil decks like much better having the Greil Egg. On the other hand, those of you that got into the beta early enough to have played with this and the mercenary conscripts or whatever the other card was that had a similar effect, cost 10 gold, you drop a mercenary anywhere. The problem with this card is that you can play it when you don't have like any heroes on the lane. It's similar to the way that Earthshaker is working when you Fisher and bounce melee creeps, where you can drop the melee creep anywhere on the board. And I personally dislike this. I don't dislike the Greil Egg. I have nothing against the Greil Egg. What I dislike is the fact that you can play the Greil Egg onto anywhere on the board. So basically, the way the game is shaped right now, you can spend all your mana, and if you have the courier bonus, like the courier charge, active for the round, regardless of having no mana or having no hero on the board, you could have nothing and just like look like you're gonna lose, and then just pop this out of nothing and chump block and maybe survive another round or something like that. And it just very feels bad. So I'm on one hand wondering why they brought this back. I guess the mechanic of playing things on any lane still exists despite the Greil Egg, so it is in a way redundant. But for the most part, since the Greil Egg's been removed, the one way to get those really like cheap free blockers anywhere was basically Earthshaker, from my experience. And this card was kind of a plague in draft when I haven't been playing draft for a while now, but when I was playing draft, this is one of those cards where you almost always wanted to take it from the shop because it just gives you a free chump blocker anywhere at any time. and it can save you a lane or give you an extra round to survive. So interesting to see them bringing this back. We'll see if people complain about it or not. But the big thing of this patch, and the reason why I really wanted to make this video, is the presence of new MultiColor Kicker cards. Completely new. We haven't had, first of all, Kicker. This is like a magic keyword. Interestingly enough, they don't add the keyword to the cards, so like kind of ironic. But basically, these are cards that have just one color, but they have an enhanced effect if you have a second color lane on, or if you play a spell from another color on the lane where these cards are. This is clearly Valve saying, hey, listen guys, you know, like there's been a few tournaments, all the tournaments have been dominated by, or pretty much won by monocolor decks. Monocolor decks are dominating the queue. That much is clear. There's not a lot of incentive right now for you to build a two-color deck. So this is Volvo saying, yeah, okay, we need to do something about this. We need to adjust the game so that there's some sort of reward or bonus or incentive for people to like play the two colors or like mix and match. I will tell you personally, I've played a lot of two-color decks. I've tried to build a lot of two-color decks, even at times like three-color decks, and it's just so hard to compete. Like, because when you're playing against a good player, you often just need to get some key spell in a key place, and if you are only able to play that spell in the wrong place or so, it's not going to be effective. So that's the big draw towards monocolor and the main reason why monocolor dominates. And it is related to the rules of how the game works and so on, but obviously in a card game, card design can change everything. So I'm really happy to see that Valve is like acknowledging this and seeing, okay, maybe this needs to be adjusted so that two-color can compete with monocolor. So what we're going to be doing here, we're going to be doing a bit of a walkthrough of these cards and maybe theory crafting a little bit about what can be done with these cards, which ones are maybe like powerful enough to be played and constructed right now. And I have high hopes that this is going to be something that they're going to keep adding on to the future. It's a really good starting point. I'm not sure how many cards there are, 3, 6, like 12 cards or whatever. So like it's a nice starting package. We'll see how people interact with these and how people react to them, what feedback they give, and hopefully we can like work on this in the future. So let's go through all of the cards one by one and give our thoughts. Like disclaimer, I haven't played with I've played with Unearthed Secrets, made the deck and played a couple of games, but I haven't played with any of the other cards. Alright, so we're gonna go down the list. Unearthed Secrets, this is a card that was in the original game, was in the beta, got removed because Valve at some point decided they didn't want people to draw cards, so they removed all the draw spells, and Unearthed Secrets now comes back as a kicker card. Still an improvement, enchant tower if you will. When you play another non-item card from this lane, it has mulch. If you don't know, mulch will give you another card from your deck that costs less than this one. So it's basically like card draw, except you're drawing cheaper spells than the one you've played. And the kicker, if you have a black hero, you gain 5 gold with a 1 round cooldown. So straight up, I think mulch is a really good, let's put it like this, it's one of the best cards advantage engines in the game right now. I would say that for the most part, besides very aggressive decks, most decks tend not to run out of cards, but they do get low. My experience personally with the type of aggressive decks that I'm playing is that often if the game doesn't go exactly the way that you plan it and design it, if you go like a few rounds later, often you are sort of top decking with 2-3 cards in hand and maybe an item. When you design a deck around mulch, you're gonna be like tendentially be going towards the overpile end of the thing. So mulch really keeps you going. with the slight side effect that often you get stuck with a lot of cheap cards and you want to really draw the expensive ones. So in a way, mulch kind of forces you to keep playing spells, which isn't necessarily bad, but I think it's a really good, like, has a really good value mechanic. You have to adjust deck building slightly so that you can keep abusing the mulch while still playing the spells that you get from it. But I think this card is like what I would call like a flagship card, where you really want to like design around this. This card to me screams like green-black economy like item deck, where you're going to be wanting to play some removal cheap spells, maybe some sort of mana ramp too, and at the same time you want to be combining the green and the black heroes in the same lane to keep abusing this. Also, the other thing is that they recently buffed Ironfog Goldmine, the black gold generation improvement. So I feel like the combination of having 6 improvements on round 1 that generate you gold throughout the game is gonna put green-black economy probably in a good spot. And adding mulch to an economy deck means also that, like, even if you're going like really crazy on trying to drop stuff onto the table and killing stuff to generate gold, the mulch is gonna mean that you're gonna not run completely out of cards. So I feel like Unearthed Secrets is probably like the best card in the list, and I have high hopes for this. And yeah, I imagine that people are gonna be playtesting this card a lot in the coming weeks. So a really exciting card to start off the list with. All right. Now, here things get cooler because you get all the alternative new art. So like, this is a gold-plated Golem, a blue 3-mana creep. You gain gold-plated Golem bounty instead of your opponent, and he has 5 bounties. So if he dies, you get the gold, and he counts as if he was like a hero. If you have a black hero, you get an additional 10. So if you have a black hero with this dude on the table and he dies, you get 10 gold. That's like a bounty hunter kill. I mean, at 3 mana, meaning that you can play it round 1, I think. If you, again, this is like an economy driven card, except instead of going green, they're going blue with this one. Black kind of has to be there anyway, because it is the economy color. I don't know. This card is a 1/4, so it feels like it's kind of more like a stall mechanic. It's more towards like late game driven, I feel like. So if you're gonna be wanting to rush stuff or so, I don't think you're gonna be wanting this card on your deck. On the other hand, you can obviously like just drop creeps on top of this, and blue and black do have like devour mechanics. So I don't know, if you drop this with a Kana, you get a big creep, like and you're gonna get a lot of gold for it instead of your opponent. Is it good enough? I don't know. I don't have that much experience with blue-black economy that I can say surely that I like it. It feels like one of these creeps that you place to chump block melee creeps, and generally it's not kind of my playstyle, not something that I like to build around and so on, so this card leaves me less excited, but giving potentially 10 gold for 3 mana seems quite decent. And the art's amazing. Can't wait to get some lore on these guys. Alright, Pincer. Pincer is a 4-mana red spell. Again, another battle spell. Caster battles an adjacent enemy. A random allied black hero with the highest attack attacks that enemy. Alright, so you're going to be wanting a red and a black hero in the lane. The red hero is going to battle an adjacent enemy. And then basically the black hero is gonna come and make us and like sandwich or pincer that enemy, and both of them will attack it. Notice that the red hero gets hit back while the black one doesn't. So the way it looks like, this is, if you have a red and a black hero, this is for sure gonna kill the enemy. If you have some item on the black hero that triggers off of battle, it's also going to activate that. So it's going to activate Mjolnir, it's going to activate Anti-Mage's Mana Denial ability, Mana Burn. So there is some potential for interaction. I dislike the cost. I think for 4 mana, the Kicker feels kind of expensive, because red has a lot of spells that have this effect already. Throwdown, Duel, Battle Trance, Punch It. Is it Punch It? Or, well, something Bunch, the one that costs 4 mana. So there's a lot of redundancy in red being able to attack stuff, and I don't know exactly specifically in what situation you're expecting to want to play 4 mana just to get a black hero to attack as well. So this card, I feel like is just slightly off, is probably not good enough to be played, is my impression. Next on the list is Spirit Guardian. Spirit Guardian is a red 3 mana creep with +1 retaliate. When you play it, it taunts. So it's basically like gonna be used more as a defensive tool to block damage and retaliate back a little bit. And then with Death Effect, if you have a green hero, Spirit Guardian becomes a tower enchantment. Spirit Guardian is a 2/1/2, so it's gonna die most of the time. Let's have a look at what Spirit Guardian becomes when he dies. Enchant Tower, +1 armor, +1 retaliate. So it's kind of a slightly... is it fair to say slightly better? I was going to say it was a slightly better burning oil, but actually I'm not completely sure if it's slightly better. The retaliate is just 1, which is enough to kill creeps, but for the most part not enough to like annoy heroes enough. The 1 armor though might be irrelevant, but also at the same time still feels like not that much. I think I've played enough to say that even Vestures of the Tyrant, for example, which provides 3 armor, often doesn't feel like it's game-changing. It was such a powerful item in Artifact 1, and the difference in the way that armor works to 2.0 means that armor is just like that bit worse. On the other hand, it does cost 3 mana, and if you play it at round 1 and it dies, it's gonna make it has a cumulative effect, if you will. So if you drop this tower this round 1 and you get the enchant tower from round 2 onwards, maybe it's decent, but it feels like more of a draft card to me. On to Fungal Horror. Fungal Horror is a black 4 mana creep with Devour, a very black ability. If you have a green hero, Fungal Horror has +2 attack and its adjacent enemies have Rooted. Rooted is an ability that left a lot of people excited when it first got announced. In my experience, it's very, very, very situational. Like, the fact that you can root someone is good, and if you can root something, especially in the later turns, it's great. But at the same time, I don't think like most of the root cards are good enough. I've seen the root boots be good a couple of times, and occasionally a creep, but I don't think you're going to be playing this card for its root value. If something, you're going to be playing this card to have a 5/2 for 2 mana, or maybe devour something. I just feel like you don't play this for its root value. You have to be wanting the body before you're thinking about the root, and then the root is just like the cream on top, if you will, right? But I think once again, this is more of a draft card. I don't think this is going to be nowhere near playable in Constructed. Corpse Horde is a 3 mana blue spell that enchants Gasser. I've already played against this. It's kind of annoying, actually. Some guy put this on Ogre and multicasted it, and the lanes do stack up quite fast. In any case, enchant Gasser. Round start, summon a zombie. If the lane is full, it devours a random allied creep with the lowest health. Allied creep, right? It's not going to devour your heroes. If you have a green hero, allies have trample. So the design is interesting, where it feels like, you know, things are going to start devouring each other like zombies would do, and things are going to grow, and then you drop a green hero and they have trample. I just think the time commitment for this to work the way it's intended in terms of design is just too large. So if anything, I think people are going to be using this as more of a like defensive tool to chump block, and not as a tool to like grow the zombies and then trample over. I think once again, like the previous cards, the kicker here is just going to be like situational, occasionally good, but you're not going to be wanting to play this for the trample. On the other hand, I have seen decks with Kana and Lycan where they try to like completely flood the boards and buff everything so that Lycan flips and becomes huge. And in that sort of scenario where your creeps are all huge, maybe the trample is good. And it does fit the color combo. But I do think it's like... My spike in me tells me this is more of a chump block card. And I'm not sure if it's good enough at that, to be honest. Alright, next on, Shock Trooper. Shock Trooper is a red 2-mana creep 2/2 with quick cast. Not a lot of those. Play effect. If you have a blue hero, deal 2 damage to unit blocking Shock Trooper. So essentially, in a red-blue deck, you have a creep that is gonna deal 2 damage to the unit blocking it. So 2 mana, 2 damage, quick cast, so you can follow up with something. I think, again, this is not a great rate for constructed, so if anything, this is gonna be a draft card. And I have to say, I think in draft, this is probably like good enough. It seems like good value in draft. But I doubt that this is going to be good enough in constructed, so I'm not going to be thinking about potential interactions and uses for that. Burning lesions. Someone's burning their hand there. It looks more like little parasites like chewing on their hand, but whatever. So it's Burning Lesions is a black 2-mana spell. Give enemies +2 DK. If you have a blue hero, deal piercing damage to each enemy equal to their DK. Alright, so give enemies means the whole lane. +2 DK. So that's for 2 mana, that's up to 10 DK. The disadvantage of DK obviously is that it's not immediate damage, so you're gonna be like having to wait until the end of round to potentially kill something. But then once you add the blue hero, that means that you're gonna be getting up to 10 DK and up to 10 damage potentially. So actually, this feels like this card has potential, like in a sort of way like Echo Slam, although much cheaper and easier to use in the early game and in the late game in some way. Of course, it's going to be much less effective in the late game, but I still think for the rates that for what you're paying, if you compare this to like what's the blue barrage, Tower Barrage. Let's compare this to Tower Barrage. So Tower Barrage for two mana, it's a blue spell that deals 2 damage to each enemy. So when I look at Burning Lesions, I think this is basically Tower Barrage. If you have the blue hero, this is basically Tower Barrage, but way better because it deals piercing damage and it deals the DK on top. And then also if it's like, for example, the Venomancer deck where the Plague Wards are already spreading DK everywhere, you get additional bonus damage from that. So this card has the ground level, the basic level is quite nice, but the ceiling is quite high for its mana cost, I feel. So I think this card could be actually like really good in blue-black decks, looking for extra decks, like basically decks that play Tower Barrage and incidentally have black. I think you're going to be wanting to play this, but it's not like it's not a card that you build around or something. It's more like something that you add as a bonus to your deck if you're looking for this type of effects. But I think it's an interesting spell. It's going to be interesting to see if any sort of blue-black deck is going to have interest in playing this. Guess we're about halfway down the list. Birds of Paradox. Birds of Paradox is clearly a play on a card called Birds of Paradise from Magic. For those of you who've played Magic, you know what that is 100%. very old classical card for Magic. So Birds of Paradox is a 2 green creep and 0/1, so exactly the same stats as Birds of Paradise for Magic, and at round start you get +1 mana. Play effect: if you have a blue hero, trigger allied round start effects. So we've already seen people meme a lot with the timeline decks. What is the card? Fracture Timeline. There you go. A lot of people have been playing around with timeline decks, you know, just trying to repeat and abuse upkeep effects over and over and over. And Birds of Paradox offers those decks like a really good combination of effects where it's ramping your mana and it's providing you redundance once again. So it's in a way doing something similar to Unearthed Secrets, where it's this combo of redundancy, where if you really are looking for this sort of effects, you can use this to make your deck way more consistent. The stat line I have really mixed feelings about, because I understand that they wanted to make this like reminiscent of Birds of Paradise, but in Artifact, a 0/1 is really, really bad. And in Magic, if nothing else, you can leave your 0/1 on the side and you can just ignore it for the whole game, because you don't have to make it block or attack or whatever. But the way that Artifact works, it's just much harder to keep Birds of Paradox around. So in that way, it's way more fragile. Also, I'm not sure why they made it cost 2 if they felt it was too strong at 1 mana. I feel like this could have costed 1 mana. But yeah, I guess we will see. I don't have experience with the Fractured Timeline deck, so it's not like I can really comment too much on that. Next green card, 6 mana green creep, Captured Thunderhide. Another Thunderhide sequel. Play effect: if you have a red hero captured, Thunderhide battles its adjacent enemies. So in a way, this is kind of a Berserker Skull, like a big Berserker Skull. You can deal up to 18 damage. 6 mana for a 6/6 wouldn't be too bad, except that this guy is gonna die most of the time. So even though it's a creep, it kind of feels like most of the time, or in a lot of times, if you're gonna be wanting to get this kicker, it's not gonna matter, because it's gonna be essentially a spell. And if you're not playing it for the kicker effect, 6 for 6/6, I guess it's on rate, right? I mean, the Thunderhides, the other one costs 8 for 8 for an 8/8, right? Or 7 for an 8/8. So it's a very similar rate to this. It's just that this rate is horrible. If you look at Thunderhide Alpha, you get more than double the power for each mana that you pay. And Emissary, depending, you can also get way more than what you pay for. So I'm not sure about the rate here. I think again that this is going to be mostly a draft card, where you drop this to clear creeps out of the way and deal some more tower damage. And in that regard, I think it's going to be probably good. Not a constructed card. Wait, there's no... Oh, right. Raids. So, Raid is a black 4 mana spell that gives allies Pillager and +1 Siege. We've seen this somewhere. If you have a red hero, proceed to the combat phase in this lane. So, Raid is basically, once again, doing what they have shown us in other cards, in Unearthed Secrets, in the blue gold creep, in the Birds of Paradox. This is basically saying, okay, if you want to play aggro red-black and you want more consistency in what your deck's doing, there you go, you got Raid. Raid is basically a combination of Sarlacan's cards, the Assault Ladders, where you have +1 damage, and then you get the pillage effect that Sarla has, kind of combined, and then At the same time, they give you a no hesitation. So I think that this card, even though it costs 4, and now that we've seen that no hesitation was pushed to 3 mana, this card is, I think, probably very likely going to be played. It's just a question of how good red-black aggressive decks are going to be, because for the most part, what we've seen so far is that mono red decks, mono black decks, they can be aggressive and they can be good at what they do. So is it worth, for cards like this, or like to make your hero combination stronger, is it worth giving up that little bit of flexibility that monocolor gives you for this effect? And I have to say, I feel like that probably yes is the answer, because no hesitation is such a good spell. Right now, if you get to like 7 mana, so around 5, which is like good into the mid game, it's quite likely that you can probably play a raid into a no hesitation and just take a lane out of nowhere. You're gonna get additional siege, you're gonna get pillager. I feel like this is good, so I'm actually kind of interested in making a red-black deck. I have a few. I probably can just get an old one and put this inside and see how it's gonna play out. So I'm interested to see how this card's gonna work in that regard. And we come to the last card from the patch notes, Archer's Parpet. Parapet? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, it's a blue 3-mana improvement. This looks like Wind Ranger, man. This looks like Wind Ranger, but whatever, it's probably just a random archer. Round start. Each ally deals 1 damage to the unit blocking it. So all of your allies are going to deal 1 damage to the unit blocking it, not to the tower, presumably. Yeah, towers are not units. Just to confirm. If you have a red hero, allied units have +1 armor. So this is an interesting one, because I'm not sure what sort of red-blue deck wants this. So you want something that like is gonna be like upkeep killing, so Ogre Magi comes to mind, where he can also multicast this, and he's also got the Ignite and the upkeep damage effects. And then the plus armor is just survivability. It's kind of in a way it's kind of bland. Like it's a decent bonus. But yeah, I'm not sure who's out there looking to make a red-blue upkeep deck or control deck. And again, is this card worth it? Adding red to your blue or adding blue to your red for the effect that it has? It doesn't feel powerful enough, or feels maybe slightly overcosted, so it's hard to say. But I think overall, also important is that we get a feeling for what Valve thinks that people want to do with these color combos, right? The way that they design these cards gives you sort of an insight as to what their thought process is, what they think that each color combo should be doing. And in some cases that's more clear, like green-black, where you want, like, you get the card advantage, you get the gold. And in the red-black also, like, you want the pillager, you want the siege, you want to fight. In other cases, like red-blue, like blue-green, etc., it's kind of not so super well defined. But I think this is just a first draft, so I think this is a really good patch, one of the best patches we've had in recent time. It shows that they're still willing to mess around with the way the game is working. It also means that they've been paying attention to what people are playing, what's winning, what's working, what's not working. So I think this is a good patch. Can't wait to see how you guys are going to be building around these cards. Can't wait to play against you guys in the ladder. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to like, subscribe, like, press the thingies and shit. Comment on there, and yeah, let me know what you think. Cheers.